Hi, my name is Andi Chrisman, or as better known online and social media as the BPD Warrior. I have lived in the Richmond, Virginia area for most of my life. I am diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, major depressive disorder, post traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and attention deficit disorder. My mental health journey started when I was 13 years old. I had a blog, though we didn't call them blogs back in 1999, but online journals. And while I started just sharing normal stuff that a 19th or ninth grader would do, as the year went on, my posts became darker and sadder. And instead of being supported on my blog, I was actually cyberbullied anonymously by a group of girls who went to my school. They left me messages like, "You're not really depressed, you're making it up for attention. If you were really depressed, you'd kill yourself, and the world would be better off if you were gone anyway." I tried to talk to two adults about this, but both of them just kind of brushed it aside and were like, "You're 13, you can't get depressed." So that was really an invalidating situation for me. So I stopped talking about my mental health. Didn't seem like anyone was going to listen anyway, though I struggled for all those years. I did find one coping mechanism, and unfortunately, that was substance abuse. But I finally broke in late 2010 and attempted to kill myself. My liver completely failed, and at age 25, I was being transferred from one hospital to another to get a liver transplant. But by some sort of miracle, my liver started regenerating as livers can do, and it ended up not needing that transplant, which is great news. But for me, I still I just got a lot worse after that. My substance abuse just skyrocketed. I had multiple more suicide attempts, spending about 15 times in the hospital in 2011. My therapist finally suggested a name for these over-the-top symptoms and suggested I might have what's called borderline personality disorder, which is ridiculous because I have a great personality. I do have BPD. I deal with a lot of the symptoms of BPD as well. I don't want to admit it, but what she suggested was that I get a book on BPD and read it to learn more. And as I'm reading it, I started highlighting anything I agreed with. Sometimes I was highlighting with a yellow crayon from inside of a psychiatric unit. But in the end, I had a yellow book. There was just so much I related to and so much I understood. I'm growing up like, a normal kid, and then bam, you're hit with a trauma, which I think was when I was being cyberbullied, and you stop emotionally maturing. And I always tell people I was a teenager till I was like 28 because that's how I acted. I was impulsive and out of control and just seemed like I was in puberty, though I had long past puberty. Once I had my diagnosis of BPD and realized this is actually a thing and I'm not just, you know, totally a lost cause, I was willing to do anything to get help. I often joke that if someone had told me you should do voodoo, I'd be like, okay, what's the name of the nearest witch doctor? Because I needed help. Thankfully, no one did suggest voodoo. Instead, they suggested that I do dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. Now, realize at this point in my life, I was the stereotypical World of Warcraft player, where I was totally addicted to WoW, living in my parents' basement, literally, and spending almost all my time and all my days playing this game. So when my therapist first started telling me about DBT, she mentioned the group therapy aspect, and I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I would never do something like that. But again, I was desperate. So I went ahead and I did group therapy, which is more like a class than a therapy session, but it it really helped. It did. And I learned a lot of these coping skills that most people just kind of learn as part of growing up. So I learned about NAMI when I was in a psychiatric unit, and two women came in and did this presentation where they shared their history and their story of living with mental illness, their acceptance, how they accepted their illness and their diagnosis, their coping skills, their treatment plan, their future, their hopes and dreams. And I didn't know it at the time, but this program is called In Our Own Voice. And for the past 5 years, I have been a presenter of In Our Own Voice. But this was the first time I ever learned about NAMI. And I was pretty shocked. I was like, there's like a group of people who like get together and talk about mental illness, perhaps, still living under this stigma. So I was just so shocked about it. I had done some of the connections meetings, which are support groups. I had done multiple NAMI walks, but I wasn't very involved. And finally, I felt that I was, well off enough and in the right place and had gone through enough of my recovery that I came and was trained as a presenter and have really enjoyed all that I've done through NAMI. And when I started doing advocacy, that really gave me this sense of purpose and really gave me something to push me forward. And now I've done a lot of stuff through NAMI, but I've done stuff through other nonprofits and I've done stuff through social media. And that sense of purpose really continues to drive me forward in my recovery. Now, I still struggle with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and sometimes with the borderline symptoms, but at least now I have more control over my illness instead of when my illness had all the control over me. I like to think that I help people walk the path that I had to walk alone, and I try to help everyone on their mental health journey. And that's one of the things that really will help you the most in handling your mental health is learning self-compassion, learning to treat yourself with care and with kindness, and not to think that you're in some way broken or less than or unimportant, because your brain, like any other organ in your body, can have problems. There can be, misfires, there can be malfunctions, but you have to use that self-compassion. You have to talk to yourself like you would a friend instead of belittling yourself and berating yourself. And that's like the biggest piece of advice I could ever give anyone who's dealing with mental health issues.